Our next case is Mr. Robert Bonds. Mr. Bonds, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Robert Bonds, 348-110.
Mr. Bonds, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. We will then ask the warden for any input that he might be able to give us. And then you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board before we vote. Do you understand our process, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the matter of Robert B. Bonds, DOC number 348110, date of birth, September the 8th of 1977. He's classified as a fifth felony offender. He has an adjusted good time date of November the 22nd of 2024, a full term date of March 13th of 2033. He is currently serving a 14-year, 1 month, and 27-day sentence on the charges of possession with intent to distribute cocaine, distribution of cocaine, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Does that information all sound accurate, Mr. Bonds?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bonds, your case was assigned to me, so I'll begin our interview process. Mr. Bonds, would you tell me, please, how old you are?
46.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges at this time?
2 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background. Did you ever finish high school or get your GED?
I never finished high school, but I had got my GED at McDonald's 16 in New Orleans.
And when did you get your GED?
Like in 1996, 97.
While you were out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about vocational skills. What kind of work skills do you have?
Well, I like to work outside. I like to do a lot of labor. I like to, I don't like to be inside, but I have a lot of work in labor and outside, construction work, phone work, anything I could get my hands on outside.
What kind of work did you do before you came to prison?
I used to wash dishes and cut grass.
You're a fifth-time felony offender. How many years of your 46 years have you spent in prison?
I really don't know the answer to that, but I know it's a lot.
Have you given some thought to why?
Well, I gave a lot of thought to it, but I know when I got released from prison, I wasn't ready. And when they released me, I had a lot of play in me, and I took life for granted. And my realities really set in when I got out. And I called the parole officer and told him that I didn't understand my reality, so I needed some help. And I asked them to give me some help because I really didn't understand it. I was lost. I took it for granted. And the difference was when I got out there, I still had a lot of play in me. I really wasn't ready to face my family reality. I was like.
Well, let me ask you, which time are we talking about? Because you've actually gotten out 2, 3, 4 times, and you've been revoked 2, 3, 4 times. So which time are we talking about that you weren't living in reality? What about all the other times?
The other times, I just thought life was fun and games. I really didn't take nothing serious.
So let's talk a little bit about drugs. That seems to be what you do. So tell me about drugs. Do you do drugs, or do you just sell drugs?
I was addicted.
Okay, let's talk about that. When did you start using drugs?
About at age 13, 14.
And what did you start using at age 13 or 14?
Marijuana and cocaine.
Okay. And did you progress to anything besides cocaine?
Yes, I started using meth.
Anything else? Any opiates, heroin?
No, sir.
And how often were you using marijuana, cocaine, meth?
All day, every day.
And for how long did you do that?
At least about 15 years, 10, 15 years.
How, if at all, did you ever stop? When you
Well,
came to prison?
yes, sir. When I turned myself in this time, it was to get off the drugs. And that's one of the main focus that I've been focusing on since I've been incarcerated on this time. That's why this incarceration was better for me than any incarceration because I learned a lot and I took care of myself more better. I went to the infirmary and I had found out I got Crohn's disease and it's like it bettered me. It's like I was killing myself. And when I came to prison this time, I got better because I'm mentally and physically, and I don't want to use the drugs. And I learned to wing out the drugs for 2 years. And when I get home, I got my wife gonna find me a sponsor and some classes to go to keep my recovery going forward.
You know, Mr. Bond, you tell me that you're a drug addict, and I believe that. I'll accept that. But all your charges were distribution of drugs, selling drugs. So you were selling drugs. Is that how you were making a living? Is that how you were surviving?
I was doing both because I needed to sell drugs to keep the drugs coming for me to use. And that's
So
how I
let's
pulled my
talk a
head.
little bit about your drug dealing. Who did you sell drugs to?
Basically myself and people I was getting high with.
Well, I mean, you were arrested and convicted almost every time of drug distribution of some sort. They don't normally prosecute people for just doing drugs with the guys they get high with. Who were you selling the drugs to?
The guys I was getting high with, the police didn't understand it. Just I was in high crime neighborhoods at the time, and every time I go around a high crime neighborhood to get high, I always wind up getting in trouble, either scoring from a guy or getting high with the guys that I'm dealing with.
And you have three children. How old are your children?
126, 122, and 118, about to be 19.
Your children do drugs?
No, sir.
What would you do to somebody if they were trying to sell your kids drugs?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do nothing. I'm not a violent person, so I ain't case say I would hurt him. I want to harm him. I'd be upset though. I will be upset
Why is that?
because I wouldn't sell nobody kids no drugs. I knew better than that.
Let me
I
ask you,
before I
how
sell
do you
them.
know that you weren't selling drugs to kids? You were high all the time. You were selling drugs to anybody that would buy them so you could support your habit. How do you know those drugs weren't going to kids?
I don't know that, sir. I don't know
No.
what he's done once I got rid of him.
So, have you ever given any thought to the lives you were destroying by selling drugs?
No, sir, because at the time I only thought about getting high, feeling good, and
Asking you as you sit here today,
you know,
have you ever given that any thought?
today, yes. As of
What are
today,
your thoughts?
that I wouldn't even was I really came up from my mom was on drugs, so I learned from a bad place from the beginning. But as I grow and get smarter and better with life, I learned that if I'm putting a drug, being around a drug environment with the kids, I'm destroying the kids, and that could lead to me destroying my children. And I don't want that to happen. That's why I put myself in here to better myself because I didn't want to destroy my family like I was doing, and I was heading in a real bad direction.
So you tell me that now all of a sudden you've changed. So what's changed about you?
Growth, growth, my growth in myself, my learning, my the way I look at life now. I'm not
Oh,
playing. I'm not
all of a sudden the last year or two you've been in jail, this has changed.
because
What's different today? What have you done? What programs have you taken that helped you change?
well, right now I'm in celebrating a recovery and all the other programs that I had taken. I took more serious and I learned from some from each program, and especially with parenting and anger management because I needed to learn how to discipline myself. I needed structure in my life. I needed everything that I'm learning now that I want to learn. The first part that I want to learn it. Second part that I'm learning it. I could talk to my wife straight up without lying to her, without lying to the kids, without being afraid to tell them what's really is going on. We communicate better. I mean, my life just been better within the
Let
last
me
2 years.
ask you this. How are you gonna stay sober if you get out?
Because I'm finding me a sponsor, and I got programs all around me, and I got a real good family that don't do drugs and not
Have
into
you
no.
have you ever had any long-term substance abuse treatment? I know you've taken Living in Balance, and I know you've taken Celebrate Recovery. Have you ever been in any long-term substance abuse treatment?
No, sir.
Don't you think you need something like that with your history?
I need all the help I could get.
Where are you going to be living if you get out of jail?
With my family in New Orleans.
What kind of work are you going to be doing?
Well, I have 2 jobs lined up at 2 restaurants, and I have a farm. Well, I don't have a farm, but I have a job waiting on me at this farm with the animals that I love. I love to be with the animals and around
What kind
outside.
of jobs do you have at restaurants?
I'm gonna start off with dishwashing, then eventually move up.
What job do you think has the most access to drugs?
What job do I think had the most access to drugs?
Yeah.
I mean, all of them, if you ask me, because you could just go get them from anywhere and just bring them
Would
to
you be surprised to learn that restaurants are in the top 5?
I didn't know that. No, that's
Well,
something.
it is. It is.
Well, I guess
Your
that.
needs are moderate, but as to substance abuse and education, they are very high.
Right.
You have a moderate risk assessment. I think you need some long-term substance abuse treatment before we put you back out. How do you feel about staying in prison, getting some long-term substance abuse treatment to get you some real tools to keep you sober when you get out? You think you need that or you don't?
I need all the help I could get.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bonds. Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Bonds?
How you doing, Mr. Marabella? Not a whole lot. We recently got him here back in May, so he's only been with us about 5 months, 6 months. He is a trustee working at the DOTD in Baton Rouge, so that's one of the areas that we put y'all most trusted inmates. He has done some good things since he's been here. He's remained right up free, but I definitely think he's going to need some significant long-term drug treatment, Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Warden. I appreciate your comments. Any other questions? Mr. Bonds, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
No, sir.
Mr. Bonds, I really do hope that you've turned around. I hear what you're saying about taking some courses and maybe kind of having them sink in this time, because you've taken courses in the past. You've taken Living in Balance in the past. You've taken it again this time. Taken anger management before. You took it again this time. Pre-release, you took it before. Celebrate Recovery is an excellent program. I just think you need some long-term substance abuse treatment to give you the tools to be able to stay sober. And you do have a high need for education. I'd like to see you maybe get some skills, maybe some vocational skills. You've got a release date of a year from now. So you'll be getting out regardless. And if you could get into a long-term program, that'll shoot that date up. As soon as you finish that program, you probably get out. So my vote today is to deny, but to recommend that you try to get into a long-term substance abuse program. And if that's available to you, I would recommend that we try to get you in that program. Because I think that you're a young man, you've got a lot of life ahead of you. And I sure do hope that you turn it around. So I'm just one vote. So good luck to you. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Bonds, it's just so unfortunate to me that after you got out from that long stint, you didn't reach out to the parole officer to ask for help when you knew you were slipping. You got to start telling yourself something. And then you got a wife and you got kids. you know, there were so many points where you could have turned yourself around and not be sitting here today. And I want you to remember that when you get out this time, because it's not about getting out, it's about staying out. You're a fifth offender. You haven't done well in staying out. And let's start concentrating on that. I was encouraged to hear you say, I want to learn this time. I'm very encouraged to hear that. But for me today, my vote is deny as well. Insufficient time served, very poor supervision history, and you need more programs. I recommend to the warden and staff there that they go in and do what they can to get you moved to a long-term substance abuse treatment program. And I think with your disease, your medical situation, you might not qualify for work release, but at some point before you get out. And I want you to sit on the front row and really learn what you need to learn, because you have all those eyes looking at you, those 3 kids, their eyes are looking at you. There's a saying that goes that I know you've heard this before, that my daddy was an alcoholic, so I never took a drink. In your case, your mother was a drug dealer, was a drug user, but you did the opposite. My mother was a drug user, so I became one. You can change that narrative. My mother was a drug user. I am not going to be a drug user. Best wishes to you, sir, but that's my vote.
Thank you, Ms. Wise.
We working on getting him something now, Ms. Wise.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Russia.
Mr. Chairman, my vote is the same for the same reasons.
Mr. Bonds, you have 3 votes to deny your parole, but recommendations for you to get some treatment. You're going to get out soon. So take advantage of whatever you can get into so you can stay out. So good luck to you.
All right.